All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're talking about a learning theory that for a long time really dominated the way we thought about education. It's all about what we can see, what we can measure. It's called behaviorism. So think about it for a second. Have you ever learned something just by doing it over and over and over again? Like drilling your multiplication tables for a test, or practicing scales on an instrument until your fingers just move on their own. That whole muscle memory thing? Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today. That's the core of behaviorism. So what is this thing, really? Let's break down what this theory, which is so focused on the outside, is all about. At its heart, behaviorism is actually pretty straightforward. It basically says we're not born with our behaviors, we learn them. And how? By interacting with the world around us. Every single thing we do is a response to our environment. And this whole process is called conditioning. It's not about what's going on in your head, it's about what you actually do. And this brings us to the most famous idea in behaviorism, the mind as a black box. Imagine your brain, all your thoughts, your feelings, your secret motivations, it's all inside a locked box. To a behaviorist, what's in that box is a total mystery. And you know what? They're not even interested in opening it. All they care about is the input, what comes from the environment, and the output, the behavior you can see. Okay, so if we're totally ignoring the black box, how in the world does learning even happen? Well, according to behaviorists, it's like a simple three-part machine. It's like a chain reaction. First, you get a stimulus. Think of it as a cue, like your phone buzzing. Next, you have the response, which is the action you take, right? You pick up the phone. But here's the most important part. Number 3 is the reinforcement. That's the consequence. If you have a great chat with a friend, that positive feeling makes you more likely to answer next time. And boom, that's learning. So to boil it all down, for a behaviorist, learning is just a change in your behavior. That's it. If your actions change, you've learned something. And the way you make that change stick is through repetition and reinforcement. Get a reward, you'll probably do it again. Get a punishment, you'll probably stop. It's a very direct cause and effect kind of model. Now, this idea didn't just pop up out of thin air. It was a huge shift in psychology, and it was led by a few key thinkers who wanted to make studying the mind a lot more, scientific, more observable. So, meet the crew. You've got John B. Watson, who's basically the founder, the guy who got the whole thing started. Then you have Ivan Pavlov. You've probably heard of him and his dogs, right? He gave us classical conditioning, the idea that we learn by associating one thing with another. And finally, there's B.F. Skinner, who really doubled down on that reinforcement piece with his idea of operant conditioning, where our actions are literally shaped by rewards and punishments. Okay, all this theory is interesting, but where did it actually show up in the real world? Well, it had a massive impact on the classroom, especially when it came to teaching languages. This theory was the engine behind a teaching style called the Audio-Lingual Method. The main goal here wasn't for students to deeply understand grammar. Nope. The goal was habit formation. The idea was to drill language patterns into students' heads until speaking correctly was just an automatic reflex, a learned behavior. I mean, you can just hear it, can't you? This is the classic sound of a behaviorist language class. The teacher gives the stimulus, the perfect sentence, and the student's job is just to respond, to mimic it exactly. And here you see the whole cycle in action. The teacher gives a new stimulus. Okay, now change she to they. The student gives the correct response. They are going to school. And then comes that key ingredient, the teacher's praise. Excellent. That's the positive reinforcement. It makes that correct language habit just a little bit stronger. Stimulus, response, reinforcement. Right there. But as you might be thinking, this approach kind of has its limits. Eventually, people started to wonder, hey, maybe what's happening inside that black box is actually, really important. And this is where psychology and education took a huge turn. While behaviorism was laser-focused on what you could see on the outside, new theories like Cognitivism and Constructivism came along and said, let's try to peek inside that box. They started arguing that learning isn't just this passive habit-building thing. It's an active, creative process that involves thinking, understanding, and solving problems. So the criticisms started to pile up. For one, the behaviorist model doesn't really have a good answer for creativity. How do we say things we've never heard before? It also led to situations where a student could recite a sentence perfectly but have absolutely no idea what it meant. At the end of the day, it just felt like it was oversimplifying something as beautiful and complex as human learning. And really, that's the big question that behaviorism leaves us with. It shows us a pretty effective way to get to the right answer through practice and rewards. But it makes us stop and ask, is getting the right answer the same thing as truly understanding why it's the right answer? It's a question that totally changed everything, and it's definitely one more thinking about.